Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to kick off our presentation today. We're going to explore the fascinating world of prepositions. The title of our session is simply Prepositions, and there's a subtitle that highlights how they connect and clarify meaning in language. Over the next few slides, we'll look at what prepositions are, how they're used, and why they're so important. So let's get started and discover the power of prepositions together. Let's look at this sentence. The baseball player in the white shirt hit a home run. Now, what I want to focus on here is the word in. It's a little word, but it plays a crucial role. In is what we call a preposition, and its job is to show the relationship between the noun player and the phrase, the white shirt. Essentially, it tells us more about the player, specifically, what he's wearing. Prepositions like in are key in giving us details and making our sentences more precise. Without it, we just know there's a player, but not what he's wearing. This small word helps connect ideas smoothly, making our descriptions clearer. So, in the context of our overall theme, understanding how prepositions work helps us build more detailed and accurate sentences, which is essential for effective communication. Let's take a closer look at some example phrases that help us understand how words relate to each other in a sentence. For instance, on her boat shows a relationship of location, where something is happening. Similarly, before noon indicates a specific time, giving us context for when an event occurs. Moving on, in a house again points to a place, helping specify where an action takes place. During class sets the time frame for an activity, connecting the action to a particular period. Then, near the goat shows proximity, describing how close something is to another object. About a goon introduces the topic or subject we're discussing. Under a mouse again signals a position, this time underneath something. And without a pass shows absence or lack. It's telling us something is missing or not available. The key takeaway here is that all these phrases include words that establish relationships, whether they indicate location, time, topic, or absence. These words are essential because they help us add detail and clarity to our sentences, making our communication more precise and meaningful. This concept ties into the overall theme of understanding how words work together to form well-structured, informative sentences. Now, let's talk about the object of the preposition. This is the noun or pronoun that ends a prepositional phrase. In our example sentence, the baseball player in the white shirt hit a home run. The preposition is in. The phrase, in the white shirt, is a prepositional phrase, and the object of that preposition is the white shirt. It's important to recognize the object because it helps clarify what the preposition is relating to in the sentence. Remember, the object of the preposition always comes at the end of the prepositional phrase and completes its meaning. So, understanding this concept is key to parsing sentences correctly and improving your overall grammar skills. All right, let's take a closer look at slide 5. Here, we're focusing on the object of the preposition. This is the noun or pronoun that ends a prepositional phrase. For example, in the phrase on her boat, the object of the preposition on is boat. Similarly, in before noon, noon is the object. Notice how each phrase has a preposition, like in, near, or under, and then a noun or pronoun that completes the phrase. That's the object of the preposition. It's important because it tells us what or who the preposition is referring to. Sometimes, the object of the preposition is at the very end of the phrase, which is a key point to remember. This helps us identify the relationship between different parts of a sentence. So whether it's during class, about a goon, or without a pass, the last word in each phrase is the object of the preposition. Recognizing this will help you understand sentence structure better and improve your grammar skills overall. Let's start by understanding that prepositional phrases always begin with a preposition and end with a noun or pronoun. These phrases are essential because they add detail and clarity to our sentences. When we write or speak, using prepositional phrases helps us specify relationships, locations, or directions. For example, you might say, always begins with a preposition and ends with a noun or pronoun, which clearly explains the structure. Incorporating these phrases thoughtfully enhances our communication, making it more precise and engaging. Remember, Mastering how to form and use prepositional phrases is key to building strong, clear sentences that connect well with the overall theme of effective language use. Now let's look at this sentence. The puppy in the shop window jumped up. Notice how the phrase "in the shop window" functions. It's actually describing the puppy, giving us more detail about which puppy we're talking about. This kind of description is what we call a modifier. Specifically, it's a modifying phrase that provides extra information about a noun, in this case, the puppy. Modifiers like this answer important questions. Which one? What kind? How many? For example, the puppy in the shop window helps us understand which puppy, the one in the window. It adds clarity and detail, making our communication more precise. Understanding how modifiers work is key to making your sentences richer and more informative. So, always pay attention to how these descriptive phrases add meaning and context to your sentences, connecting back to the overall theme of clear, effective communication. Now, let's talk about how adverbs function in a sentence. They primarily modify verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. Think of them as the words that add extra detail to how an action is performed or how something is described. For example, in the sentence, "The puppy jumped to the food," the adverb tells us more about how the puppy jumped. It helps answer questions like where, when, and how the action took place. This makes our sentences more specific and vivid. Remember, understanding how adverbs answer these questions is key to using them effectively in your writing. They're essential for adding clarity and depth to your descriptions. All right, let's talk about an important point to keep in mind when identifying prepositions. If you come across a word that looks like a preposition but doesn't have an object following it, then it's not actually functioning as a preposition. Instead, it's an adverb. This distinction is crucial because it affects how we understand the sentence structure. To put it simply, remember, prepositions always have objects. They're part of a phrase that gives more detail. But if there's no object after the word, then that word isn't a preposition at all. It's an adverb. And one more thing. This is why it's so important to memorize the list of prepositions. Knowing them helps you quickly identify whether a word is truly a preposition or just an adverb. This skill is key to mastering the overall theme of understanding sentence structure and how words function within it. Now let's look at this simple but interesting example involving a gecko. You can see the first sentence states, "The gecko climbed up on the wall." This highlights the action of the gecko and specifies where it was climbing on the wall. The phrase, "climbed up," is a key point here because it emphasizes the direction and movement. Next, the second sentence simplifies it to "the gecko climbed up," which focuses solely on the action without specifying the location. This helps us understand how we can modify sentences to either include or omit details based on what we want to emphasize. Finally, the third sentence reads, "The gecko climbed up the wall." Here, the location. The wall is explicitly mentioned again, reinforcing the idea that the wall is the surface the gecko is ascending. Overall, these examples show how small changes in sentence structure can give us different levels of detail, which is crucial when we're trying to be clear and precise in our communication. This ties back to our broader theme of understanding how language works to convey actions and context effectively. Let's take a closer look at this slide. First, notice that the paper with the blue border is floating through the air. Here, the prepositional phrase is "with the blue border," and its object is the blue border. This phrase adds detail about the paper, helping us visualize it more clearly. Next, we see Jordan's eyes sparkle like a sunny day. Although there's no prepositional phrase here, the vivid imagery emphasizes how lively and bright Jordan's expression is, connecting to our overall theme of vivid descriptions. Finally, Michael jumped up on the table with great ease. The prepositional phrase here is "on the table," with the table as its object. This phrase shows us where Michael jumped, illustrating his agility and confidence. Throughout this slide, identifying prepositional phrases and their objects helps us understand how details are added to descriptions, making scenes more vivid and engaging. It's a key skill in crafting clear, descriptive writing, which ties into the overall theme of enhancing our language and storytelling skills. Now take a look at this scene. The paper with the blue border is floating through the air, almost as if it's weightless, symbolizing ideas or information in motion. Notice how Jordan's eyes sparkle like a sunny day. This highlights his enthusiasm and curiosity, which are essential for innovation and learning. It's a reminder that a bright, curious mindset can make a big difference. And then we see Michael jumping up on the table with great ease. This demonstrates confidence and agility, traits that are vital when tackling challenges or taking bold steps. Altogether, these visuals connect to our overall theme. Embracing curiosity, confidence, and flexibility can propel us forward in our pursuits. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide.